Hey, good morning. How are you guys? It's 9 a.m. Monday morning. I'm going to talk about something today that might be a little touchy. I'm going to take my gum out of my mouth so that I'm not chomping on it. Excuse me. I'm going to put my phone over here so you don't see it. Okay. So perhaps trigger warning a little bit. I'm going to talk about how being codependent can almost be like a form of lying, right? So if we're so concerned with keeping others happy and appeased that we are misrepresenting ourselves, it's almost like lying, right? And I say this in a nice way because I didn't realize this about myself. Why were people continuing to treat me in a way that I didn't want? Why were people doing things or expecting me? This is the bigger one. Why were people expecting me to do things that I didn't want to do? Why? Because I was giving them, although false, the idea that it was in fact something that I wanted to do. Because I kept doing it. I kept behaving in that way that would lead them to believe that it was something that I liked or I wanted. I thought I was doing them a favor, right? By keeping them happy, managing my behavior so that they'd be happy, acting in a way, being a real people pleaser, right? So making sure that they're okay by me doing what I believe that they want. And it's very misleading. It's very misleading. Because then what do we think? How do we think others will respond? They believe that we're acting out of our will, out of our desire. And really we're doing it out of obligation or expectation that that's what the other person wants. Let me illustrate this a little better, more clearly with a story. So Delaney, the littlest lamb in my family, has a friend. And, just like any girls that age, in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, this was her one very good friend. And they did nearly everything together. And I remember her one time saying, I don't really want to sleep over at so-and-so's house tonight, but I already told her I would. And I was like, okay, but you're allowed to change your mind. You don't have to sleep over at someone's house just because you said you were going to, especially if you no longer want to. If you don't want to do it, now you're really putting yourself in a bad position, right? Because now you're going to be there, you're going to be wishing you weren't sleeping over, and you're going to be resentful the whole time that you do have to sleep over, or you're going to be worried, or you're going to be upset. And that will be confusing to your friend. Because if you've told your friend that you do want to sleep over, and then you're there, And she's excited because she's, of course she wants you to sleep over and you're going to be having fun and you're going to be doing, all of the things that you guys normally do that you have fun doing together. But it will be obvious that you're not having fun. It will be obvious that you just aren't really in it, right? Like you're not fully engaged, you're not present, because you'll want to be doing something totally different. So that's essentially lying to your friend, right? Because you're not being honest about what you want and you're misrepresenting yourself. And then you're wondering why this person, you're setting yourself up for future instances, occurrences, situations where now what? Now you can never say no to a sleepover? Or you can't say no to a certain, sorry, there's a noise happening behind me and I'm getting distracted by it. I have no idea what it is. Or you find your inability to say no to an invitation, that person will keep asking you to do those things because you keep making up reasons why you can't do it instead of just saying, I don't really want it. I'm not interested. It's kind of like if a person continues to invite us to do something, but we really don't want to do that. I had a hard time with this when I stopped drinking. People will be like, let's go out for a drink. Let's go out for meet for wine. And that's something I used to do all the time. So it wouldn't be unusual for someone to invite me to do that. And I didn't stop drinking for any reason. It just was something that I didn't really enjoy anymore. It just took me away from a version of myself that I wanted to be. I wasn't able to be that version when I was drinking. So, of course, people would ask me out for drinks, and I'd be like, I'd make a vague answer. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, I would love to. Or because I did want to meet with that person, I just didn't want to go out for drinks. So instead of me being direct and saying, you want to go for coffee on Saturday morning instead? Because I wasn't sure how that person might respond to me saying, I don't want to drink. Like I wasn't being authentic, right? I wasn't being in my own most authentic version of myself. So someone saying you want to go out for cocktails or drinks, I'd be like, maybe another time. Or I'm not available Friday. Instead, I could have been in my authenticity and in my authority and said, I'd much rather go out for coffee or tea. Can you go on Sunday morning? And then I leave it up to that person. If they don't want to go out for coffee or tea, then that's their choice too, and that's okay. But it's the same that I'm talking about with Delaney. If she's telling her friend, oh, I can't sleep over tonight, or I can't come over because my mom said that tonight's not a good night, that's just perpetuating that situation and creating an opportunity for her to have to make up another excuse. Whereas if she just were to say, I'm not comfortable having sleepovers right now, or I just don't like it, or I'd rather not sleep over, can I just come over and hang out for a while? Now that's something that that girl can actually respond to. Instead of having a real misunderstanding of what the actual, what's actually happening, right? So misinforming someone by trying to keep them happy just creates more opportunity to have to deal with that over and over and over again. So essentially lying in order to make sure those around us are happy, Would you want that? Would you want to be the person that's on the receiving end of that misinformation? I remember telling my mom once, flat out, I'm afraid to say, this is when I was able to get really honest with my feelings. And talking about what we feel helps the other person understand too. I said, I'm afraid that you'll be disappointed if I say no, but I really don't, or I'd really rather, I forget what we were doing, I'd really rather go another time, or I'd really rather stay home and whatever. And people will surprise you. My mom said, I'd much rather have your honesty than time with you when you're really unavailable, right? So misleading people in order to keep them happy we understand the irony in this, right? That we're not actually keeping them happy. We're protecting some part of ourselves that we think needs to be protected. Because we are uncomfortable with them feeling whatever it is, disappointed. Like Delaney doesn't want to deal with her feelings of guilt or whatever she had about Angelina being disappointed that she wasn't going to sleep over at Angelina's house. Oh, sorry, I was trying to keep her name out of it. Not that you guys know her, but I do like to respect people's privacy. So Delaney thinking she's doing something for Angelina is actually just perpetuating this expectation. Why would Angelina think anything different? Why would Angelina think that Delaney didn't want to sleep over, that Delaney didn't like sleepovers? If Delaney keeps accepting the invitation to sleep over and continues to say yes and sure or make up reasons for the times that she can't, essentially putting Delaney herself in a bad position, right? She's uncomfortable. This was a couple years ago, so this isn't now, but she didn't like it. She would get anxious. She would call me when she was there. She would have like these breathing episodes because she was feeling anxious. So essentially putting ourselves in really bad situations or negative situations because we don't want to deal with our emotions about how someone else might feel if we're honest. That's what we're doing in codependent relationships. We're managing them by trying to keep the other person happy while compromising ourselves. It's not like saying, well, I don't really want there's give and take always in relationships. And if it's something that isn't meaningful to who we are or to our existence, if we don't feel like we're compromising, sacrificing a part of ourselves by doing something with or for another person, that's one thing. You know, like, well, I really prefer that other coffee shop, but if you can only go there, I can do that this time. It's not going to affect my state of mind or my well-being. I'm not giving up something that's very important, like a value of mine. I'm not putting myself in a state of emotional duress in order to please you. I'm not trying to manage your emotions through my behavior. But if I'm doing it to keep you happy, even though it's something I don't really want, that's misleading. That's essentially lying. And we can't expect anyone to think anything different or that we want anything different if we aren't being very authentic and very honest with them about what it is we do want. We're not giving them an opportunity to actually respond or reply to our true feelings and desires. We're hiding them. Do you guys find that you do this? Where do you do it? What's the story you're telling yourself about what will happen if you don't do it? And can you see the next evolution and how it would actually be beneficial, not only for you, but for that other person? You'd actually be doing them more of a favor. I'm not saying it won't be challenging, because it could be very challenging at first, especially for the other person that's accustomed to you behaving in a certain way. They'll be surprised. And you can say that. I can understand why this would be surprising for you, or why this might be hard for you, because I used to do things X way, when I'm doing things differently now. I'd love to know if you're willing to share, if you've experienced this, and how you can see, or where you can see that this next evolution would be one that's really beneficial for you and the other person as well. All right, guys. Always thanks for watching. I love having you here. This is so great. This is such fun. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments or just leave them in the group. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.